Welcome to the Cloak and Dagger channel. I bet you didn't know the chilling history of the old asylum on the hill. A looming Gothic structure, it was a stark silhouette against the setting sun. Locals whispered tales of its dark past, of the tortured souls said to still reside within its decaying walls. No one dared to venture near, especially not after dark. It was a place of shadows and silence where the air hung heavy with unspoken horrors. The building itself seemed to exude a palpable sense of dread. Its windows, like vacant eyes, stared out blankly, reflecting the dying light of the day. The wind howled through the gaps in the boarded-up windows and doors, sounding like the mournful cries of the forgotten souls trapped within. This was a place where reason and sanity went to die. A place where fear was not just an emotion, but a tangible presence. Oh, Cranbrook Mental Hospital. That was its name once. A place meant for healing. It had become a breeding ground for madness. Opened in the late 1800s, Cranbrook had borne witness to unimaginable suffering. Patients were subjected to cruel and inhumane treatments. Stories circulated of medical experiments, of patients left to rot in their own filth. It was a place of despair, where hope went to die. The asylum's troubled history was well documented. Newspaper clippings told of mysterious deaths, of patients disappearing without a trace. Local folklore was even more disturbing, filled with tales of ghostly apparitions and disembodied screams echoing through the halls at night. The truth, whatever it was, remained shrouded in darkness, adding another layer to the asylum's chilling reputation. One humid July night, a group of teenagers, bored and restless, decided to tempt fate. Among them was Jake, and the skeptical one, who scoffed at the stories. There was also Emily, the adventurous one, always up for a thrill. And then there was Ben, the quiet one, who harbored secret fear of the asylum. They stood at the foot of the hill, the asylum looming above them like a watchful predator. "Dare you to go inside?" Emily challenged, her eyes gleaming with mischief. Jake, never one to back down, immediately accepted. Ben, however, hesitated, a shiver running down his spine. He had heard the stories, felt the chill of the asylum's presence even from afar. But the pressure to conform, to prove his bravery, was too great. With a deep breath, he followed his friends up the hill. The air grew heavy as they approached the main entrance. The doors, rotting and decayed, creaked open with a groan as if warning them to turn back. The stench hit them first, a mix of mildew, decay, and something sickly sweet that made their stomachs churn. Inside, the asylum was a labyrinth of darkened corridors and dilapidated rooms. Dust lay thick on the floor, undisturbed for years. Silence pressed in on them, broken only by the sound of their own footsteps and the pounding of their hearts. Each room they explored was a grim tableau of forgotten lives. Rusted beds with torn mattresses, wheelchairs scattered haphazardly, and medical equipment covered in cobwebs. The air was thick with an oppressive atmosphere, a palpable sense of unseen eyes watching their every move. Section 5. The screams begin. As they ventured deeper into the asylum, the air grew colder. A sudden gust of wind slammed a door shut behind them, the sound echoing ominously in the silence. Then they heard it. A faint scratching sound coming from the end of the hallway was followed by a low moan, barely audible but filled with an unspeakable sorrow. Emily's hand found Jake's, her earlier bravado gone. The scratching grew louder, more insistent, accompanied by a series of thumps and bangs. Then, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, echoing through the empty halls. It was a raw, guttural sound filled with pure terror, the sound of someone or something in unimaginable pain. Panic surged through the group. They had to get out, had to escape the nightmare unfolding around them. Section 6, A Presence in the Dark. They ran, their fear propelling them through the maze of corridors. The screams followed, seeming to come from all directions at once. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper, as if the asylum itself was closing in on them. Then, in the flickering beam of Emily's flashlight, they saw it. A figure, shrouded in darkness, stood at the end of the hall. It wasn't human, not entirely. Its form was too elongated, too distorted, and its eyes glowed with an unnatural light. The figure glided towards them, its movement smooth and silent, defying gravity. Terror lent speed to their flight. They had stumbled into something ancient, something evil, and it had no intention of letting them escape. Section 7. Trapped. They reached a dead end. A heavy metal door, rusted shut, blocked their path. Panic threatened to overwhelm them. The scratching sounds were closer now, accompanied by a low growl that seemed to vibrate in their chests. Jake threw his weight against the door, but it wouldn't budge. They were trapped with nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Emily fumbled with her phone, desperately trying to find a signal. Nothing. They were alone, cut off from the outside world, at the mercy of whatever lurked in the shadows. The figure was almost upon them now, its eyes burning into them, its presence radiating a palpable wave of cold dread. It reached out with a long skeletal hand. Section 8. Escape. Just when all hope seemed lost, Ben, his face pale with terror, noticed a small barred window at the end of the corridor. It was a long shot, but their only one. Working together, fueled by adrenaline and desperation, they managed to pry the bars loose. One by one, they squeezed through the narrow opening, tumbling onto the cold, hard ground outside. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of the road, the asylum's dark silhouette receding behind them. As they caught their breath, the horrifying events of the night washed over them. They had looked into the abyss, and the abyss had looked back. Section 9. Never Look Back. The experience changed them. Jake the skeptic was forever haunted by the memory of the figure in the darkness. Emily the adventurer never sought thrills in abandoned buildings again, and Ben, the quiet one, found his voice, sharing their story as a cautionary tale. The asylum on the hill remained, a silent testament to the horrors that lay hidden in the dark corners of the world. But some wounds run too deep to heal. They never spoke of what they saw that night, the true extent of the horror they encountered. Some things are better left buried, locked away in the deepest recesses of their minds. They carried the scars, both physical and emotional, as a constant reminder. Never tempt fate and never, ever go back. Please like, share, and comment for more.